What's going on, guys? Twitch here from Extra Gaming. I just finished up an MM match, in fact, and I came across someone who is in MG1, and me and my friends were queued. I was having lag issues, and then I was fragging just a little bit below him, a few frags below him, and he became really toxic and against everyone, even though we were winning. And my friend was out fragging him a lot, and he was giving him bad names and shit. And I thought I'd make a video about how you can rank up faster in Counter-Strike. This is from my experience in the past year that I did Counter-Strike, and well, a little bit more than a year. So here it is. Hope this would help you guys rank up in CSGO. So the first tip I have for everyone would be crosshair placement. Now this is essential for higher ranked players because everyone is going for headshots, headshots, and headshots again. Anything above, I would say, goal level 3, it'd be extremely hard to start fragging well if all you're doing is shooting at the chest. Now, crosshair placement should always be somewhere between the face and the chest, if not already on the face. That way, once your enemy peeks or you peek your enemy, it would be extremely easy to take him out with a one-hit headshot, maybe even with the AK. So that's my first tip, which is crosshair placement. Now my next tip is actually spray control. Spray control, I would say, would be also extremely important because it would be one-taps are very inconsistent. Even if you can get them in the warm-ups, it'd be extremely hard to actually apply that while keeping your head cool and without getting killed yourself. It's always better to know the spray pattern on every weapon that you use, most common, and being able to master that. That way, in case you actually have to use that weapon, you would know the spray pattern to it. My third tip for everyone would be to stay calm and avoid being toxic even when you are losing. Now this really, I personally have a bit of problem with this. I can be very upsetting when I'm losing and a little bit toxic if my teammates are just being dumb. But it all comes down to the fact that you can't do anything about your teammate being dumb except helping him out instead of yelling at him, screaming at him, or even saying shit like, "Oh, why are you so bad? Why are you so bad?" That won't help anyone. Not your team, not your friend, or your solo queue teammate. It's always good to also keep calm. If you look at pro players, they almost never ever have an expression on their faces when they're playing. You have to keep calm in order to focus on the match that you are in. So that would be my third tip. Now my fourth tip, I believe, is something that everyone should do, even if you're not trying to rank up. You should always warm up before you go into a competitive match. Now why is this? Warming up would help you get your wrist movement or mouse movement started off for the day. That way when you're going to comp matches, you wouldn't be bottom fragging with 0 kills for the first half of the match, which could potentially lose your teammate, your games, because everyone needs to at least have a 1-to-1 ratio, assuming nobody's carrying, for you to actually be able to win. So it's always good to warm up before your matches. That way you're ready for anything that will possibly hit you. I personally like to warm up in the aim maps that you can get from the workshops and death matches. If you play on 128 tick servers, it's also better to warm up on 128 tick deathmatch servers. Just keep in mind, you always want to warm up before you go into a competitive game. And so that's my fourth tip. Now my fifth tip is to purchase utility when possible and use all of it by the end of the round in some way. So this this is really important because utility is quite important in higher level games, as people can sometimes peek you and kill you if you're trying to run. For example, on Dust 2 running on down cat, trying to take cat control, it's best if you smoke off Xbox. That way your opponent won't be able to op you from mid in case they do have an opera on mid, and you will be vulnerable if you don't have a smoke there, because it's a wide open angle for him, and even if you do have an op, it's a very risky thing to do to challenge another opper, and I personally would not prefer it if I could avoid it. And having flashes would also help you when entering a site or opening up to a new angle. That way your opponent would be blind if they have not turned away, which would also give you a split-second advantage even if they do turn away, because they have to turn away and then back. So that's my 5th tip: purchase and use all utility if possible. Now my 6th tip would be to be aware of your game. Now by this I mean always know where your teammates are, where did they die, what weapons did your enemy have, and this also comes down to communication as well. So have both and you'll be perfectly fine. Now game sense and game awareness also coordinates together. You also want to have game awareness on your enemy's utility. So if you see like three nades onto a specific area, you'll know that there are at least 3 people, because you can't have more than 1 nades for 1 person, and if there's 3 simultaneous flashes, you'll know that there's 3 people in that area at least. So probably the best idea to back away at that point if there are 3 people that you're up against. So that's my tip number 6. Now tip number 7 would be to know your preset nade spots. Now you can look this up anywhere online. I'll probably be making more videos on it as well, but knowing the smokes and flashes for your map is crucial, because having the smoke advantage could mean on the T side that you are able to push a site after blinding an enemy. So for example, my team and I like to smoke on Mirage. For example, if we're in an eco, we like to all buy smoke sometimes. We smoke up between the triple box and the other box that's on site. We like to smoke off triple box and the wall behind it, so that area would be smoked off. We smoke off stairs as well as jungle between stairs, and we also smoke off right under palace, so that gives you a circle to work with where it's all smoked off. Nobody can possibly peek you while you're planting. That way it would give us an advantage on the bomb plant, and at least give us an $800 boost on the next round. So always know your smokes. If you don't, learn them before you go into a competitive match. And some of my friends sometimes just look it up during warm-up on a match. You can do that as well. Just make sure you remember it. Now for my number 8 spot, it would be constant communication. This also comes down to game awareness. Be aware of the calls your teammate makes. If you have the type of communication that you shouldn't have any problem not knowing where someone is if someone already died there. If you look into pro games, they are constantly talking, like I am right now. I'm constantly talking to you, and this is what pro games look like. They're not silent. Pro games are never silent. They're constantly calling out any information that they receive in games. So always be calling out what you know and what you know about your enemies. Now for my number 9 spot would be practice some more before you, at all times actually. Now, I personally do about 100 to 110 hours per week of CS. That's actually a lot. If you that would be, I would say, as much as some pros play, as far as I can tell. Some play more, but some may even play less. But you always want to be ahead of your game. Always practice, because if you do not practice, your skill level will eventually decrease, and perhaps even lose your rank, if not just hover over your current rank. So always want to practice. And my number 10 tip would be to rewatch matches that you play. Rewatching matches that you play will sometimes tell you what you might have done wrong in a certain situation, or the rounds that you lost. Why did you lose it? If you're not aware already, you may be able to look back at some enemy strategies and see what they've done that's different from you. You can also look at pro matches, rewatch pro matches, even if you didn't play them. Pro matches do help with strategizing with your team, so that's definitely something that help. And these are actually it. These are my top 10 tips for helping you rank up faster. Now, this is not an overnight thing. You won't be able to magically appear in Global Elite the next day, but applying these tips to your average gameplay, you'll be able to eventually see a difference in your gameplay performance before you apply these tips and after you apply these tips. So apply these tips and you'll definitely start ranking up and top fragging on your team. And that's it. If this helped, please subscribe and like on the video. If not, please leave in the comments below what you think I can improve on in the next video, and I'll see you guys next time.